My name is Kelly Rollocks. I am here to present my curriculum unit, Constructed Reality Contemporary Landscape Exploration. This unit is designed for middle school students, specifically 7th grade. The learning standards are aligned with the Gwinnett County Public Schools Academic Knowledge and Skills Standard, or AKS. The learning environment allows for 2 sessions per week at 1 hour each. The time to complete this unit is 3 weeks, or 6 days. I would also like to note that this unit was designed with my students in mind, many of whom are immigrants or children of immigrants. In this unit, students will study contemporary landscape artist Allison Elizabeth Taylor. Students will make personal connections between the contemporary artwork shared and his or her own connections to place. Each lesson directly builds upon learned skills and understandings, ultimately guiding students through contemporary art making processes. Additionally, by studying the composition and textural elements used in the artworks, students will translate their understanding in order to compose an artwork that contains a background, middle ground, and foreground, working effectively to create depth. In Lesson 1, students will study 4 selected artworks by Allison Elizabeth Taylor. Using the handouts as a guide, the teacher will lead students through discussion to challenge preconceived notions about landscape norms, allowing time for students to contribute to the conversation. The landscape selected contains subtle design elements that tell a broader story of the economic rise and fall of a particular place, or the complex connection between the place and the people who call it home. Next, the teacher will lead students in guided ideation. Using the handouts, provide students with the following topics: past, present, and future places. Students should compose a series of 3 thumbnail sketches per topic. Each thumbnail is required to have a distinct background, middle ground, and foreground. Use the additional handout as a visual reference to explain how these effectively work to create depth. In Lesson 2, the teacher will lead a demonstration to model each of the following painting techniques. Allow students time to experiment after each demonstration. A handout is provided, both as a workspace and a reference. The end product will be used in Lesson 3. Conclude this lesson by having students consider the results and consider how further techniques may be altered or combined. Allow additional time for students to experiment independently. In Lesson 3, students will use their knowledge and understanding from Lessons 1 and 2. Students will use the thumbnail sketches from Lesson 1 and the painted papers from Lesson 2 in order to collage and construct a draft landscape from their selected thumbnail sketch. This work is done on a smaller scale inside of their sketchbook. Using the formative assessment measure provided, the teacher will monitor student progress and provide specific feedback to individual students prior to Lesson 4. In Lesson 4, students will reflect on the results of the draft and formative feedback from the teacher in order to guide and alter plans. Encourage students to consider which colors and textures are effective for their particular landscape design. During this lesson, students will be equipped to work independently and be able to make informed decisions that demonstrate the knowledge and understanding that has been gained. Students should produce a minimum of 4 to 5 painted papers. In Lesson 5, students will work independently. Students will use their prior understanding of knowledge and skills learned from the previous lessons to be able to compose their landscape collage independently. Students may make choices in the process in regards to cutting or tearing the papers to achieve their desired aesthetic result. Although the goal is for students to work independently, they should refrain from gluing their final composition until they've had one final opportunity to receive peer feedback. Have students circulate the room and provide one suggestion and one compliment to a peer using a sticky note. This will inform students to revise the composition one final time. Students have an opportunity to accept or refute the peer feedback received. In Lesson 6, the final lesson, students will compose an artist statement. Students may use the handout to assist in crafting and articulating a written artist statement. After the artist statement has been written, students will display work and share verbally with their peers. Encourage students to discuss and question one another. In conclusion, it is important for students to make personal connections to place by exploring their own identities. In doing so, students will be enabled to engage in deep learning processes because personal connections have been made. Students will also challenge traditional norms of landscapes and broaden the boundaries of the genre.